Our next speaker is going to be Dr. Charles Looney. He is faculty stationed at the Southwest Research and Extension Center. His area of expertise is breeding and reproductive physiology. His presentation is using technology to improve spring and fall breeding efficiency in the fescue belt.
Hello, my name is Charles Looney. I'm the reproductive physiologist based in Hope at the Southwest Research and Extension Center. I want to thank to all the participants in this webinar, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to meet in person. The work I will be presenting today are mainly accomplished at the Batesville Station, at the Livestock and Forestry Experiment Station, where we have many different varieties and cultivars of fescue for cattle grazing in our pastures. In that program, we have more than 500 females being bred in both the spring and the fall season. Before I start, I want to thank Don Hubble for the many years of service to our state. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to learn from you while working together there at the Batesville Station. I'll always remember all the good times we've had there. This is a slide just to tell us a little bit about why technology is so important for agriculture food production. It's projected that in 2050, there will have 9.7 billion people in the world. This population will triple by this time. And we need technologies to fulfill these food requirements, where we have 100% more food that's going to be needed by 2050. And 70% of this food must come from efficiency improving technology. So therefore, we must continue to strive to improve our technologies in agriculture so that we're able to produce this food for this growing population. First, I'd like to start with defining reproductive efficiency. And our definition would be to achieve the greatest pregnancy rate as early in the season as possible, winning the greatest number of heavy calves with the lowest production cost possible. And these are cows grazing tall fescue in the fescue belt. What is the most important reproductive benchmark in a beef cow-calf operation? It's the percentage of cows calving early in the calving season. And as I travel throughout the state of Arkansas, many of our producers have longer than needed breeding seasons and calving seasons, and some are not even as defined as that. So it's important that we keep this benchmark in mind, the percentage of cows calving early in the calving season. How can we actively manage cows to calve early? And the only way I know how to do this is using estrus synchronization to induce estrus on the beginning of the breeding season using these type of procedures. This is an acronym GnRH for gonadotropin releasing hormone. There's several of those trade names that are important, named Cystarelin, Factorel, Fertigil, Gonabreed, and Ovicyst. They induce ovulation both at the beginning of the synchronization protocol and at the end when we're actually doing our timed insemination. These are all injected intramuscularly. Most of them require refrigeration, and the dosage is typically around 100 micrograms or 2 cc's. The CEDAR protocol is an acronym for Controlled Internal Drug Releasing. It's a progesterone intravaginal device that's placed in cows for 6 or 7 days that produces progesterone and allows us to induce estrus in those cows. Prostaglandin, or PGF, is the trade names for those products are Lutalyse, Lutalyse Hycon, Estromate, Syncsure, Estroplan, Prostamate, and NSYNC. And they're given at the end of the CEDAR program. Again, a GnRH is injected at the time of AI, and then after that, the bulls are put in. This is the experiment done by Rogers in 2012, where they looked at the synchronization protocols with timed AI versus a control or just natural service. The natural service took place for about 90 days in 9 different herds in Minnesota. This is some of the results of the impact of estrus synchronization on calving distribution. This is a percentage of pregnant cows calving. And you can note that the first 21 days of the calving season, that 40% of those cows calved to the timed AI protocol versus only 22% of the natural service. Also note that cows that didn't calve, there's a lesser number of those cows that did not calve to timed AI compared to the control natural service. How does the estrus synchronization influence calf performance? In these 1,100 cows, the weaning weights per cow exposed was 40 pounds greater with the timed AI protocol compared to the control. And these are benefits are much beyond the genetic improvement of these calves, where estrus synchronization can be done with even natural service to get these cows calving early in the calving season. So our objectives in this program was to determine if pre-synchronization using CEDAR with prostaglandin or prostaglandin alone before the beginning of a typical co-sync with 6-day CEDAR increased the conception rate of commercial beef cows nursing calves or 14 to 16-month-old commercial beef replacement heifers to AI. Also, we wanted to evaluate the utilization of grazing management of endophyte toxic fescue and novel fescue on reproductive performance of cows nursing calves and heifers. Some background about the estrus synchronization and AI is the use of AI has improved the genetic progress of beef herds throughout the United States, thus allowing producers to improve profitability and sustainability. Research has identified the limit in improving our results in fixed time AI has much to do with the inability of the initial GnRH injection to initiate a new follicular wave. The basis for our research and these experiments is to attempt to improve the utilization of the primary injection of GnRH by pre-synchronization by reducing the progesterone content of the female prior to synchronization. A little background about the fescue work. Kentucky 31 tall fescue is the most abundant perennial cool season forage in the United States. It is well adapted to large environmental areas with 21 states and 8.5 million cows grazing it. Tall fescue is the most desirable because of its ease of establishment, extended grazing season, pest resistance, and tolerance to poor management. However, because of a fungal endophyte, animals grazing Kentucky 31 develop fescue foot, have poor milk production, and fescue toxicosis, which results in reduced conception rates and weight gains with losses of around $609 million annually, while that's $50 million only in Arkansas. So cattle suffering from fescue toxicosis have rough hair coats, exhibit heat stress in summer, and loss of tails and ears, and have feet problems in the winter. Novel endophyte-free and beneficial endophyte fescue has been developed and accepted, which produce superior results in improved weight gain and healthier cattle. And at the experiment station in Batesville, we've had 2 cultivars established in September 2002, the Jessup AR542 and the HiMag cultivars. And that's what some of the studies that we'll be working with have been used with. This is the protocols for our synchronization protocols with pre-synchronization with CEDAR and prostaglandin 2 days prior to a regular 6-day co-sync protocol for AI. Also for PGF or just PGF alone, and a control with no treatment at all. In these studies, after the timed AI protocol without regard to any estrus, we waited 10 days, and then we put in our cleanup bulls. Our preg check was done with ultrasound 30 days after timed AI. And again, 30 days after we pulled the bulls out. The bull stays in approximately 50 days with a total cleanup program around 60 days. This is spring 2020 breeding season for pre-synchronization pregnancy results in heifers. We had low numbers in this initial group, so we didn't see any really differences in our treatments with our cedar and prostaglandin, 58.3%, which wasn't different to our PGF2 alone at 54%, and our control of 58%. But these are all acceptable pregnancy rates, around 57% on the first day of the breeding season with a group of 14 to 16-month-old heifers is really acceptable. There's much difference in the 60-day pregnancy rates with our overall pregnancy rate around 69%. This is the same classification of spring 2020 breeding season on Batesville cows. There's 131 cows in the initial spring breeding season. 43 was in the cedar plus prostaglandin with a 65.1% pregnancy rates to AI. Prostaglandin alone, 59% was not significantly different from the cedar treatment, but it was higher than our control at 47.7%. Overall pregnancy rates, timed AI was 57.3, 75 cows out of 131. 60-day pregnancy rates were not different. Overall pregnancy rates was around 67.1%. This is the breeding rates in the spring 2020 for Batesville cows grazing novel or toxic fescue using a 6-day cedar ester synchronization protocol. The novel fescue, 67 cows, 65.6% was the pregnancy rate at the timed AI, which is significantly higher than cows grazing toxic fescue at 44.6%. Overall pregnancy rates was trended to be also higher with the novel fescue, 73% versus toxic fescue, 61%. Pregnancy rates for heifers with novel and toxic fescue during the spring season not significantly different, and cows are bred in the fall for novel and toxic fescue were not significantly different either. We see lots of differences in pregnancy rates with toxic fescue versus novel, particularly in the spring where we have a lot warmer temperatures to deal with. So results grazing on toxic fescue had a lower breeding rate compared to cows grazing novel fescue. This is the overall pregnancy rate for pre-synchronization treatments for Batesville heifer for both fall and spring season in 2020. There's 100 heifers in that year group for 2020. Pregnancy rates were significantly higher with the cedar pre-synchronization treatment at 71% compared to prostaglandin alone, 45%, and control 45%. Overall pregnancy rates for 2020 for heifers around 54%, still acceptable results. Wasn't no difference in the pregnancy rates and the final pregnancy rates, and embryonic loss was similar for all the different treatments. This is the overall pregnancy rates for pre-synchronization for the cows for both spring and fall in 2020. There's 307 cows in the total program for that year. Pregnancy rates weren't different for cedar and prostaglandin alone at 65% for the cedar over 101 cows, 62% for the prostaglandin alone on 101 cows, and the controls 53% with 105 cows. Overall pregnancy rates to AI for 370 cows was 60%, which is really acceptable for that type of program. Final pregnancy rates are overall was 81%. Wasn't a whole lot of difference, and was not much difference in the embryonic loss. Embryonic loss has to do with the number of cows that are called pregnant to AI at 30 days, but showed open or bred back to the bull at 60 days. This is a fixed time AI conception rate and final pregnancy rate of cows nursing calves. for 2 years in the Batesville Research Station. So fall cows were bred in December to AI and then cleaned up in February with the cleanup bulls. In the spring, we bred these cows in May with the timed AI and then cleaned up in July. So overall, we had 399 cows fall, 220 cows were bred, 149 were pregnant for 68%, which was significantly higher than 56% of the cows are bred in the spring. And that's a typical coincidence we have all the time in our breeding programs where fall. We have a lot higher pregnancy rates, particularly cows are grazing fescue. We have a lot lower percentage of these cows in the spring because of the temperature. Pregnancy rates have trended the same, 88% for the final, 77% for the spring. Overall, 83% was final preg check for that year. In summary, pre-synchronization with cedar and prostaglandin alone can improve timed AI conception rates in beef heifers and cows nursing calves. Cows grazing novel non-toxic fescue have improved conception rates and final pregnancy rates compared to toxic fescue. In fall breeding season, conception and pregnancy rates are more efficient in the fescue belt compared to the spring season. Thank you a lot. If you have any questions, add them to the chat and we'll try to answer them.